From the NewsTalkSTL studios in St. Louis, it's the Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter. On tonight's episode, making house calls with Dr. George Hruza, looking for a sign with Joe Maddock, and the Right Mind studio band, Mitch Murphy and the Murphy Tones. Now, putting the fun in your dysfunctional world, here's your host, Todd Schowalter.
Hey, how are your kids doing, Joey? Your kids doing well? I love my kids, by the way. Are your kids okay?
I don't have a single kid.
Oh, you don't have any kids at all?
No, just the cat.
Oh, you're missing out. And I love being a dad. I love having kids. But guess what? Mm-hmm. The Surgeon General, I'm just reading this. My wife gave this to me this morning. According to the Surgeon General, being a parent can be hazardous now to your health. Really? What's this all about? No, it says I've got the thing right here, and apparently it causes stress and anxiety. Well, just living in this world of ours does that. But now there's a Surgeon General warning saying that being a parent can be hazardous to your health. I just don't think they want you to be a parent. I don't think they want children. I don't think they want the family unit, those Democrats.
And this rank right here, is it a real rank or is it a Tim Walz situation? Did he ever see combat, this Surgeon General?
No, I don't know if they did. Have you ever seen that C. Everett Koop guy? He was like the Surgeon General for a while, and I thought he was like Colonel Sanders, like son or son-in-law, who, by the way, Colonel Sanders, was he even really in the military?
He was not. That is a fact.
Okay, so wait a minute. So Colonel Sanders, who's like in charge of the chicken bucket.
He has genocided a lot of chickens.
He has killed the chickens. Mm-hmm. He has killed the chickens. Speaking of that, my kids got rid of their chickens. That had nothing to do with my story, but you just took me in another direction. By the way, yeah, the Surgeon General is not a real general. He's never even been in the military as far as I know. And Colonel Sanders, the only thing he's ever killed was chickens, which my kids just got rid of because they don't want to have chickens anymore.
The Surgeon General, I just looked it up, his name is Vivek Murthy. And you remember, the other Vivek, he always said, it's Vivek like cake. Yeah. I don't know if the Surgeon General says that, because he's supposed to talk healthy stuff.
Vivek? I think he talks like this.
No, Vivek like cake Murthy is the Surgeon General. It's crazy that you knew this Koop guy. Who memorizes the freaking name of the Surgeon General?
Well, Jay Silverheels. You know who Jay Silverheels is?
He was Surgeon General over in the Lone Ranger world.
He was a Surgeon General of the Lone Ranger. You're right. No, he was actually Tonto. That's what, if you're ever playing trivia, I think I've already shared this nugget on this show of ours, that if you're ever at a trivia contest, which are really quite boring after a while, I'm glad I'm not invited to them anymore, but if you ever are conned into going to one, I guarantee you, that is always one of the questions. Who was Tonto on the Lone Ranger? It was Jay Silverheels. So if you get dragged to one of these things and you got to do the silent auction and all that other BS, just wait until you get. In fact, even if the question is nothing related to the Lone Ranger, just answer Jay Silverheels and then leave.
This Surgeon General warning, the exact quote, parental stress is a significant public health issue, Surgeon General says in a new advisory.
Right.
This advisory sounds new.
Right.
And we stopped beating our kids pretty recently.
Right.
We used to beat them, and there was no Surgeon General warning back then.
You can't even do that anymore.
I feel like I don't like to see parents hit their kids, but I know it worked on me, so I'm really conflicted because I got a beating and then I stopped doing the thing.
Well, it's so stupid. I mean, does this guy have kids? I mean, I love having kids. We've had so much fun. If it weren't for kids, aside from you, I would have nobody to play with, okay? I mean, nobody, my wife, who I love dearly, will not play with me. She won't. I'll say, hey, you want to play? No, I'm not in the mood. I don't mean like that. I mean, just play. Maybe like play catch. No. And so, the kids will. So, how are kids stressful to the extent that there has to be a Surgeon General warning?
I know that when the kid comes out, it could rip you a new hole or the two become one. So that's pretty stressful.
But that's always fun, too, for me, because like when my kids came out, it was like football. I said, down, set, 3 on 1, hut, and there's TJ, and he's going back, and then I threw him to the nurse, and that's why he has a dent in his head.
Coach Tom, how was that?
It's a great day for football. Hey, guess what Coach Tom is doing?
He's opening up a restaurant with his daughter. I know that.
Is he really?
Yeah, the new one over at the Foundry area. What is it called? Remember, his daughter was opening up that new restaurant. So
he's doing it, too?
He's helping out. He's posting all about it.
I had no idea, because I thought he was busy at the University of Illinois.
Well, that too, but be sure you look out for Expat, the new favorite barbecue place at the Foundry down by Slough and IKEA.
Oh, wow. Maybe they want to sponsor the show.
I guess, yeah.
Why?
If you're a guest on the show, you're going to get a pitch eventually.
That's right.
I don't care what you sell.
That's why Admiral Andy doesn't come back anymore. I keep saying, I know the submarine wants to advertise on the show. He goes, no, they're part of the military. I go, does that would be a great sponsor.
You know how much a screw costs on a government contract?
Exactly.
This podcast could be $1 million an episode. But September 12th, look for Expat down at the Foundry. That's a plug for our friend, the Swobodas.
I had no idea. Well, I will have to, because I like barbecue. I like Coach Tom. I like his,
Evie. One of us said it wrong.
Yeah, Chef Evie. No, I'm definitely going to go try that out. What's your favorite kind of barbecue, by the way? Do you like chicken wings? Do you like barbecue chicken wings?
The leftover crap. So whenever they say, what is it, rib tips or brisket? Burnt ends. Burnt ends is like the leftover junk that's all fatty that they cut off from the good stuff.
Yes, I love the fatty stuff.
A good burnt end or a brisket or, a pork belly.
I like good. You know what I like is a good old butt steak. You know, I really don't care about butt steak, but I just like saying it. It's like, would you like a filet? Would you like a T-bone? No, I like a big old butt steak. And then just say it with me now. I'd like
a big old butt steak.
Isn't that fun to say?
That is
Bring
fun.
me a big butt steak.
And you got a mullet.
I do have a mullet, yeah, and I have my car. My car is on blocks in my front yard, and I set my trash on fire. I'm all set.
Don't baste that, Todd. You got a mullet.
Are they still around? Mall's Barbecue?
Mall's Barbecue Sauce is around. We got to get them.
Maybe they would want to sponsor our show. I don't know. Well, it is Labor Day weekend. Do you have any big plans?
I think I'm going to take your car up to the shop and fix the AC because we can't even baste you today.
Can't do it. I could not even.
No bronzer.
I could not even wear my bronzer today because it is so dang hot out. Because if it's too hot, the bronzer runs and people think my face is melting, which is quite funny when you go into the grocery store.
And you got leather seats in your sub, or is it going to stain it?
No, I do have leather seats, actually, but they're gray leather.
Oh, you can't mix the brown and the gray.
No,
it'll leave a little pool of, like a brown circle, a poo circle on your seats.
Sometimes it drips in my pants, and people say, sir, I think you you forgot something. And I look down, there's a big brown stain in my pants, and, well, I don't want to go
Blame
there.
it on someone else. Who did that?
I always do that. Somebody's been throwing their poo-poo at me. Yeah, crazy. You know what we're doing?
Labor Day. I know that.
Why do they call it Labor Day? Because
we were trying to make plans, and you said, I'm busy Labor Day.
I am busy Labor Day. I'm doing some laborious type things. I wonder how many babies are born on Labor Day, and the mother goes into labor on Labor Day. Wouldn't that be funny? Not really.
Baby.
Yeah, sort of.
Not really.
I'm just really kind of perplexed about this whole thing here. Yeah, you know what I'm really perplexed about? We got Joe Maddock coming on the show to talk about it. But, in my neighborhood, okay, we have a lot of turnover. Now, I have a nice home on a corner lot with a big corner yard that a lot of, people can see, okay? I am surrounded by these liberals and all their signs for everybody except any of the people that I'm voting for. So I've been trying to doing my due diligence as a patriot like I am, to get some yard signs for the candidates running on the Republican ticket. It's impossible. You can't find any. It's like they don't even do it. They're not trying, Joey. They're just not trying.
Well, their signs really don't fit in the mailboxes.
No.
We got to get Josh Hawley on this. How come I can't mail giant signs with metal legs sticking out of them through the post office?
Well, I don't know. I'm already working with Josh Hawley on that. I told you I'm having mail problems, and he said I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I think the reason because we're trying to get him on the show. Okay, I think you knew that. I think I mentioned that to you a long 2 seconds ago. Anyway, I'm trying to get him on the show, but I think he's so busy taking care of my mail situation that he's not able to do it.
Now, we're trying to get a new sponsor here at the radio station, Dr. John's. You know what they do?
Dr. John, yeah, baby. I do know what they do. Talk about playing with toys.
A little lingerie here, but they can solve your mail problem, too, at Dr. John's.
They can solve your mail. Oh, ooh. I see what you're saying. It looks like I'm getting a big, thick parcel.
Now, we may get in trouble for this, so I'm going to say it anyway.
Care.
I've overheard the bosses going to different people saying, who wants Dr. John's as a sponsor? And I immediately stuck my hand up and I said, throw it to Todd. He's perfect.
Yeah,
so we'll see if it trickles down, because there's a lot more famous and better people on the radio here. So we got to let them reject it. I don't want to name names.
Do you know, speaking
10 other names ahead of you, probably.
But it's going to be a great show when we come back. In the meantime, I'm Todd Schowalter, along with my good buddy, Joey B. This is The Right Mind Show. We'll be right back.
Coming up next on The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter, Dr. George Hruza. Welcome back to The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter on NewsTalkSTL. And now a man whose political cartoons are always timely and his skin creams are always topical, Todd Schowalter.
And we're back. I'm Todd Schowalter, along with my buddy Joey V. And on the line right now is Dr. George Hruza. He is running for, he wants to be a state house rep. He made it past the primaries, obviously, and now he's going to take it the full distance. How you doing, sir, Doctor? What is new with the campaign?
I'm doing great. Well, I'm just meeting with voters, trying to meet voters in my district, which is Town and Country De Pere, Frontenac area. So I find that's the most energizing thing, because I'm finding out what they are about. And I tell you, number one issue is that they don't like us fighting all the time, all the political polarization.
No, we certainly have a lot of that. I mean, it seems to be, and again, I think a lot of it is on purpose. I mean, I think the media does a lot of it just to divide everybody. As you know, if you can divide, you can control, and I think that's a big part of it. What are some of the main issues that you're facing? Because we've had other people on the show that want to go into Jeff City with the other Republicans, and there seems to be a lot of division within the Republican Party. Is that something you're ready to address?
Well, I certainly am. You know, my motto for my campaign is common sense policies with practical solutions to move Missouri forward. That is what I'm hearing from the voters. That is what they want to see us. They want us to work across the aisle, and in Missouri, the legislature probably means not as much across the aisle with the Democrats, but across the aisle within the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And because I think that kind of division just gets it. We get in our own way. Last year we tried to have initiative petition reform, and that stalled out because that was Republican infighting. So I want to get there to really look at the policies and figure out a way forward. You know, we've got to get away from that kind of personal. People getting personally upset and offended. You know, we're there to serve the people of Missouri to make progress. And it's just not helpful when people get all worked up about irrelevant issues.
No, and you're exactly right. And it does seem to be, I mean, we're just bombarded with all these irrelevant, I'm offended type of things, whether it's like this whole woke culture and you can't say this or what's your pronoun. And it just gets so ridiculous when we have such bigger tasks at hand. Now, I've met you on a couple of occasions with some of the organizations, the Center Right Coalition being one of them. And you have a really fascinating and interesting story. Would you mind sharing that again, because for those who haven't heard it? Because, I mean, you're not just your typical candidate out there running, but you've got a backstory that is really, like I said, I find it very interesting. Would you mind sharing it?
Well, sure. Yeah, I'm not a career politician, so my story is that I grew up in a communist country, communist Czechoslovakia, which is my concern is we kind of may be heading in that direction. That's why I got involved. So I grew up there. We escaped from the Czechoslovakia, from that oppressive, miserable world, and then after 3.5 years we were able to get a visa to come to the United States legally, and came to the U.S. and we arrived with basically a suitcase each, 4 of us in a little studio apartment in New York, and my parents, my sister were successful physicians in the United States. I trained in New York and became a dermatologist, and ultimately president of the American Academy of Dermatology and Missouri State Medical Association, St. Louis Metro Med Society. That would not be possible in any other country in the world. That opportunity is what makes this country so fantastic, that you individually can achieve anything that you set your mind to based on your ability and skills. And so that is what really motivated me to run for office. There's another piece to my backstory, is that I'm also a son of a Holocaust survivor. And so my mother's parents and all 4 grandparents were murdered in Auschwitz. She survived a death march from Hungary to Austria. The 2000 started, 500 finished, and then she survived a concentration camp and was liberated May 4th, 1945 by Patton's 71st Infantry, which of course, I would not be here without the U.S. So not only is it a land of opportunity, but I would not be here without the brave GIs that saved my mother after the Second World War.
Right. Well, and the whole that whole period of time was such a horrific situation. One of the concerns I have, and I don't know about you, I mean, I'm sure it is that people are overlooking history. I mean, history will repeat itself if you don't remember it. And it seems like between a lot of this, I don't know, we mentioned before, like some of the woke and, the progressives, do you actually, I mean, it was something as terrible as that was. I mean, do you think that it's possible that something like that could actually ever happen again?
Unfortunately, I think there are some signs that we could go down that road. I mean, think about there was this. To me, the sent chills down my spine when there was President Biden proposed this disinformation board, totally counter to the American values. That's where we grew up. It was you couldn't speak your mind. Your phone was bugged. If you said something off, my mother she once spoke to in 1956 when the Russians invaded Hungary. She listened to Radio Hungary and told a good friend of hers, about what she heard, what was not the same thing as was reported in the news, and she was promptly canceled. She was a professor at the Charles University. She lost her job overnight. The person who told on her ultimately became Minister of Health. That is the kind of stuff we just do not want here, and that's been, it just came out the other day about some of the censorship that's been going on. And the freedom of speech and freedom of the press are the best checks against the government that gets out of control.
Oh, yeah, and I agree. Because the media used to be that was your checks and balances. And I was in journalism school. I mean, the very first thing that you learn is that you have to be objective. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. You have to report the truth. And that has totally gone out the window. We basically have a media now that's the left-wing arm. They're their propaganda department. And it's horrific to see some of the things that are going on. One of the things I see, and I want to get your opinion on it, is a lot of people, especially with the censorship and everything else, they're like, well, it's just social media. It's not that big of a deal and whatnot. And, socialism, if it's done right, there's nothing wrong with it. Do people realize just how bad it truly is? And what do we have to do to actually show these people, aside from hearing stories like your own?
I mean, socialism it's the challenge with socialism and even communism. It's very seductive. Oh, well, sure, we'll take care of you, and then everybody will contribute. What's reasonable, that kind of stuff. It sounds great. The problem is that it goes totally against human nature. Mm-hmm. So what happens with socialism is that you say, well, we'll take care of you. We'll send you all this stuff. So then, what's the reason? Why should you want to work or contribute? Because if you already get it, it's a bit like if everybody in the class gets an A, whether you take the test or not, well then, would anybody take the test? No. So you end up. Everybody will of course use all the stuff, all the goodies they get, and then nobody will want to work. So ultimately, what happens is the government has to coerce you to work. Mm-hmm. Basically under a gun or threat of going to prison if you don't work. I mean, in Czechoslovakia, it was mandatory to work, whatever the job was. You had to work because people wouldn't work because, you get paid the same whether you work or not. And that is the direction that we're going, where the government sends you money for not doing anything just because you deserve it. That it just does not work. And if you think about it, everywhere it's been tried, whether it's Eastern Europe, Venezuela, the government was elected popularly initially, and look at the disaster that is. That's the current world. Cuba. I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah,
it's been defeated every single time. And I know, and again, going back to history, if people would just study history rather than erasing it, socialism has never worked. And anytime somebody says, well, it's going to be different this time, it's just not. And as you mentioned with Venezuela, a wonderful, prosperous country that just went down the toilet. I mean, if that's not a model to show what could possibly happen. I don't know what is. What are you getting? What kind of? Because now you're out there, you're doing your thing, and you're running for office. Have you gotten any pushback in your your professional life, rather, with some of the views that you have? Because I know a lot of us have.
This campaign so far not. I did run for state senate 2 years ago, and we definitely had occasionally people. Well, the only pushback I had is when I was at the polls in April, the primary, and I was standing there with my sign, and then a couple of people came by, and one gentleman said, "Well, he is a blank person." So he didn't know who I was, but it's just like, to me, what that just showed that there's this hate. People will hate you even though they don't even know you. They just hate you because, well, they've heard that you are something or other. And I think that's just really not where we should be. People really have to look at, in my mind, that's my big part of it, is individual. Individual means also that you judge everybody as an individual, not as part of a group. You mentioned, I did want to bring up you mentioned the woke stuff. And so when I grew up, we were being indoctrinated in school. And I feel that some of that is happening in the U.S. as well. And it can be very damaging too.
Oh, absolutely. It's just the fact that, again, you've heard and seen analogies all the time, but it's always like, little by little. It's not just, or it's almost like the frog situation where the frog, they're slowly turning up the water. Mm-hmm. And so it's not boiling until it's too late for the frog to jump out. And what is it going to take? You're out there again, you're campaigning, you're doing your thing. What do you think? Obviously, I consider us, I don't want to say the right side, but I like to think the side of common sense. What do you think it's going to take for everybody else to actually wake up, aside from something catastrophic?
Well, it is what we are doing. People like me, people like you, have to just keep talking about it and showing the problems, and of course bring attention to the issues as they arise. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing we have, and because we still do have freedom of speech, even though I know that there are some efforts to squelch it, we've got to basically be out there and talking. The other thing is, when we talk about it, is when you connect with the voters, the thing is to try to understand where they're coming from. And that's not always easy, but the best thing I find is to try to understand why they feel that certain way. And sometimes you can make a bit of a progress there. But it's kind of almost individual by individual, mm-hmm. which is challenging.
Yes, it is.
Of course, there are so many people. Right. But we see glimmers of change. If you think about some of the companies that were going one direction, they've started to realize and recognize that merit actually is important, rather than what group you belong to. When I grew up, I belonged to a group that in Czechoslovakia could never go to university because my parents were in the wrong group, which was at that time it was people who were elite, meaning people who were educated. So my parents were educated, therefore I could not go to university. So if you think about how absurd that is, but that is sort of what happens with some Asian Americans in the U.S. because the Asian Americans, they may be discriminated against for being able to get a good education. So mm-hmm. it's that people have to be judged as individuals and what their merit and abilities are.
I totally agree. Do you think, as far as going back to even the COVID days, when that all started back in 2020, a lot of that, you saw a lot of the things when it came to mandates and control. Do you think a lot of that was kind of the beginning of the, I'd say, the ultra state that we're in right now?
I agree. I think the COVID, it's one of those things. The mandates, they're well-meaning, but they don't consider the unintended consequences. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that there was some kind of sinister thing. The problem is that's a challenge. The government, you've got to have limited government, because when the government, they kind of, if you give them the power and say, well, we have emergency powers, we can do all this and that, the other. Germany ran under emergency powers. And it's just anytime you give up some of your checks and balances, you get into difficulty. So COVID mandates and all the shutdowns, which turned out they probably didn't do much of anything, but it caused a lot of disruption. And then there's a kind of a hangover from that when they say, well, if we can do this, we can continue doing some of these things.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. It's like if you give government power, they will maximally use it, and if you give them more power, they will keep using it. That is just the nature of it. And
they're not going to stop. It's not like, okay, we're done now. We're just going to stop and give it back. I mean, once they have the power, they're going to keep it, and there's no way that's ever going to end. So, I mean, it's and again, it's been a crazy several years. I think it's just time to slam on the brakes and get back to some normalcy, which I hope you can help bring to the table when you're elected to the Missouri House. How can people help you with your campaign?
Well, so certainly you can go to HruzaForMissouri.com, sign up to help us out at the doors. I mean, I do have a district where I do, it is a competitive district, and my opponent is working hard. I'm working hard, and I'd love to have your help. You can also, of course, support me financially. That would be great too. That you can get just HruzaForMissouri.com. That would be wonderful. But because I need all the help. I mean, I'm doing the work. But anybody who feels closer to me, you're welcome to join me. Also, you can sign up to have a yard sign as well.
Sounds good. Well, I'll definitely take a yard sign. We were talking about that earlier. They're so hard to find. And along with that, anything I can do to support you, count me in. But thank you so much for joining us. And again, you have a fascinating story. You're going to make a great rep. And, you're just a dang all-around great guy, George.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now I'm blushing here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being on.
All right. Bye-bye.
He has quite a story. I tell you what, and I met him on a couple of occasions, and I always like for him to retell it because, again, I don't think people realize, Joey, I just don't, that, they have this grandiose idea of socialism. And I even know people my own age, which is pretty much, I'm almost 12 now, that just think, oh, no, it's great. I think the COVID situation started it. Like, we're getting these checks, we like sitting at home, we don't like doing anything. But it is, like he said, it's seductive. And then once that's all in place, that's when, the wolf really comes out, and next thing you know, you can't get. It's hard to get out of it. You can't sometimes ever get out of it. Your thoughts?
I love that Dr. George Hruza is a dermatologist, too. Mm-hmm. A little late, though, because I went to the dermatologist a couple weeks ago, and they charged me $75 just for them to tell me, oh, you look great, take a sample of Eucerin SPF on the way out.
Right, yeah.
If he sponsored the show, he'd be giving us money, we'd advertise the dermatology practice, and we could show him our back moles and stuff for free, I bet.
And that's capitalism. That's not something you can do in socialism. That's a trickle-down effect, which actually does work if you think about it. And speaking of dermatology, one of our friends from the show, I want to tell you this really quick. Mm-hmm. Karen Drewley, the actress extraordinaire, she was talking about how she had a basal cell, which is a type of skin cancer. It's not serious, but it's called a basal cell. And I said she's lucky, okay, because if it had turned out to be like an oregano cell, all right, those are very dangerous. Now, you can treat it with a good oil and vinegar vinaigrette, okay, but fortunately, she didn't have the oregano cell carcinoma.
Basil, oregano, rosemary, and thyme. I love that song.
Keep going.
It's all about the different cancers out there.
I had goosebumps.
And Karen, if you're listening, we're not doctors, so we did not just violate HIPAA, because we did not take any sort of Hippocratic oath by putting your business out there. Well, but we love you, and we're sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that, but you've been putting it all over social media, so I think everybody, except for the squirrels, know about it at this point, don't you?
I was at my primary care physician, very dim and dark in there for some reason. They were getting all the lights and stuff fixed. And I said, I got a few marks on my face here. What does that look like? And he's like, I don't know, it's too dark in here. You should go to a dermatologist. And I went there on a referral. The lighting was much better there. And he said, it's nothing. You're going to be the next Morgan Freeman. Look at the spots on his face, and that guy's
Morgan
a billionaire.
Freeman.
Andy Dufresne. That's from our favorite movie, Poop Crawlers.
Poop Crawlers. Poop Crawlers, also known as Shawshank Redemption. Crawling through the poop. Yeah, I tell you what. Well, when we come back, there's more fun and mayhem on the way. We got Joe Maddock coming in. Not coming in, he's going to call in and let us know why we can't find any dang Republican signs anywhere. That, along with some other stuff. We got Mitch coming in, maybe Admiral Andy, but he hasn't really committed yet. But you'll always have Joey and I. And in the meantime, I'm Todd Schowalter with Joey V, and this is The Right Mind Show. We'll be right back.
Coming up next on The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter, Joe Maddock. Welcome back to The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter on NewsTalkSTL. And now a man whose flatulence was so potent it inspired Elon Musk to create GasX, Todd Schowalter.
And we're back. I'm Todd Schowalter along with my good buddy Joey V. Mitch in the background being very quiet. And on the line right now, Joe Maddock is on the line here. Joe Maddock from Jefferson County. He's also the big top dog with the Jefferson County Republicans. Enough of me talking. Joe, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Todd. Thanks for the great introduction there.
Yeah, well, I could go on, but I kept getting the Joey was doing like the slash throat type thing or whatever it was. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about, I'm just miffed. Can you tell that I'm a little full of muxed? I'm just a little ticked off because I mentioned to you a couple of days ago, do the Republicans just not want to win? I mean, I'm in this neighborhood surrounded by liberal, progressive, commie yard signs, and I can't find a yard sign for anyone, Republican or cerebral, to put in my yard. What is going on with the Republicans?
Well, first, let me ask you, are you living in the right area?
Well, no. I mean, actually, I live in a tree underneath the bridge. Why? Is that part of the problem?
That may be part of the problem.
Oh, okay.
This is something that we're talking about a lot in the leadership down here in Jefferson County is how can we get out to the people? How can we get them involved? You have your traditional channels, your radio, your newspaper, that sort of thing. Is that really where people are looking for these sort of things? And then, we're here. We have a bunch of signs that are sitting in the back of one of our Central Committee women's trunks. And now we got to go out and find the people that actually want the signs, and it's this big communication game. And for some reason, it seems like the other side has done a great job of communication, and we're just a step behind right now.
I mean, and I'm not talking one or two signs. I have a couple of neighbors. It's like, sign palooza. I mean, there's signs everywhere. I mean, you feel like you're in Branson or something looking for the ball knobbers. I mean, they have signs on top of signs. And I cannot find one single sign. And I'm like, come on, guys, get it together. I mean, if the losing team, if they're pulling this, we got to get it together ourselves. What is the best way of us going about doing this? Because I finally found out there is a place, Gravois Bluffs, over there in that strip mall or whatever it is over by the JCPenney, where they do have, I think it's called Red Wave or something like that. I don't know if they sponsor the show. I'll give them a whole plug. I'm kidding. This is a plug. But I mean, they have signs, but whatever happened to I used to have people show up and say, hey, can I put a sign in your yard? And not anymore. So, I mean, is that going to start again? Are we too far out for it to begin?
I think it's starting right now is the impression that I'm getting. Now, especially with the weather getting nice. That's a joke, by the way. But
that was a good one.
Yeah, we have that group over there in Gravois Bluff, like you said, and that's actually put on by the St. Louis County Central Committee for the Republicans, right?
Okay.
And the Jefferson County Central Committee does not have a similar office. We tend to work alongside St. Louis County there. But as you said, it's a matter of getting one central message that people can go and know where to go.
No, you really get.
That's a wonderful spot, and reaching out to the Jefferson County Republican Club for those people that are Republicans, or reaching out to your central committee man, committee woman. I think one of our big issues, as I said, is about communication, but also education. We need to make sure that Republicans, conservatives, they understand what the central committee is and what these clubs are and what they're trying to do to help them out. If they're feeling like they're being, kind of left behind in a sense, and like they don't have a voice, well, we need to do a better job in leadership of making sure they know where to go in order to have their voices heard.
Yeah, well, and again, I mean, people say, even Joey is like, he's giving me the big what if type thing, aren't you, Joey?
What if, though?
What if? It's like, not so much what if, he's like, what something else. It's like, who cares, Todd? But I'll tell you what, my wife, who I'm not allowed to bring up on the air, and I just did for, I think, the 8th time just now, she said to me about this governor race. I mean, I didn't know anything about anybody, okay? Now, we have Mike Keogh, who won, and you know what she said very profoundly? She said, Well, I knew his name because those are the only signs I ever saw. So apparently they do something that those are the only names and through signs. I just don't know why we aren't out there. I mean, after this hail damage, Joe, I want to see, because I know you're in the insurance business also. What kind of insurance are you in?
I do health insurance.
Oh, health insurance. You can help me with my roof. Anyway, I had hail damage, and apparently I'm getting a new roof, okay, that I didn't even want, okay? But this is a whole other story that has nothing to do with you being in your truck. But let me finish anyway. What I'm going to do is paint Trump on the top of my roof before I get my new shingles put on. And apparently she says I can't do that, but I got to tell you, everybody in my neighborhood would know who I was voting for, wouldn't they?
That would give it away.
Yeah, that's right. So you don't handle any hail damage in your business, do you?
Luckily, no.
What if I were injured by a big cauliflower piece size of hail? I mean, then could you help me then?
Potentially, yeah. I don't think I handle your health insurance. You typically have to have
No, you don't. Not yet. But
this is
I'm opening this door for you, my friend. This is your door to say, hey, not only am I your state rep candidate, I'm Joe Maddock, dang it. I used to play for the Atlanta Braves, and I also sell insurance.
Again, wrong Maddock, not even spelled correct.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just throw him a ball. What kind of insurance do you? You're in the health insurance business. This is your pitch.
Yeah.
Give us your pitch, baseball-wise.
Yeah, well, baseball-wise, hey, I help out people that are individuals, small businesses, large businesses, and it's all about, again, communicating what we're actually dealing with here. Most people, they only deal with health insurance once a year. They only deal with politics once a year. It's probably why I love dealing with both of these things at the same time. It's things that people. It's not always on the forefront of their mind, but it's always important because it's always working in the background. You're going to want it there whenever something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
On the health insurance side of things, it's become political.
Sure, yeah.
What my big goal is to make sure that it doesn't become socialized here in the U.S.
That's right. Well, that's okay. You mentioned it, politics and insurance. You're right, because politics are like insurance, because if you don't vote Republican, I mean, that's kind of your insurance of us not becoming communist. Isn't that true?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'll tell you this: in my career field, there's a lot of fear that if Kamala gets elected and we end up with a Democratic Congress, my industry might be completely uprooted. The hospital system may not be able to operate the way that they are. There's a lot of speculation as to what we're going to get if the Democrats gain power all across the board.
Right.
So it's something that that might be one of the main reasons why I've started getting into politics, is realizing how much control it has over all of our livelihoods, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't have the power to dictate. These people in Washington, D.C. or in California should not be able to dictate what we're doing here in Missouri and what we find is effective for us.
That's right. The free marketplace. I mean, you're exactly right, because they're trying to stick their 2 cents, their nose into that. And the health insurance will turn into the DMV. I mean, who knows how they're even going to handle it? But they try to stick their nose into something they know nothing about. And you're right. If we don't have privatized health insurance, God knows what's going to happen. All right, my friend. Well, before I let you go, I do have a new slogan for you. I want to know what you think. Okay, this goes with your insurance. Don't be a commie. Buy your insurance. Wait a minute. Don't be a commie. Buy from me. All your health insurance, Joe Maddock. What do you think? Did that work, Joey?
I didn't hear a rhyme in there at all.
Don't be a commie. Buy from me.
Commie.
Me.
The rhyme needs to be on his name.
Let me work on this, Joe. Let me work on this a little bit. Okay, there you go. I'm buying from Joe. How about something like that? Is that better? Work on it? No. Joey's over here throwing things at me. Anyway, I'll work on your slogan, but if people do want to reach out to you and get their health insurance, do you want to plug your number now, or would you rather do it at a different time?
No, that's incredible. The name of my insurance company is Maddock Insurance Group. I'm on, all the social medias, Facebook, and my website is maddockinsurancegroup.com. You can schedule a call there, or you can call my cell phone. That's 314-825-0944. Be happy to talk to you about your insurance needs.
Great. Okay, my friend. Well, again,
Don't be a commie.
You're in all seriousness, you're No. All seriousness, you're a great candidate. You're a great guy all around, and I certainly would trust you with my health insurance. Although, I had that pre-existing condition where I was born without a brain and a heart, but that's a whole other joke that I didn't go over too well. But I'll do that again next time. All right, my friend. Well, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. I appreciate your time. Thanks,
all right.
Joey.
Hey, and thank you in all of your pictures for doing the Schowalter shot. I appreciate that, too.
It was a good time.
All right, my friend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Well, it's Joe Maddock, our candidate from Jefferson County. He's also in the insurance business, and he also, even with all the sign situations here, I don't think we got to the bottom of how in the heck I'm going to get some signs from my yard. I think I'm going to have to go out there with my crayons, my pens, and stuff like that, and actually just make my own dang signs.
Well, you have a little bit of beef with the lady who's in charge of the Red Wave store, the Republican Central Committee.
I do.
Renee Artman, she's in charge over there, and I think we could squash the beef. If you
Squash
went over
the beef, we can't say that on this show.
If you go over to the Republican Central Committee over there in Gravois Bluffs, you get a few signs, and you give Renee Artman a big hug.
Now, here's the thing.
Everything will be fine.
Renee and I, if you're listening, we had, it was a dang love fest at the caucus, okay? Mm-hmm. Because we had words afterwards. I gave her those puppy dog eyes that I don't have, and she gave me a hug. I hugged her back a little too long, in her husband's opinion, and at the end she said, "I will pray for you." And I said, "God knows everybody has to," and we left on good terms. So Renee, I think I'm invited to her her next what those women sit around. They have those little shopping parties.
Knitting club.
Yes, no, not a knitting club.
Well, she does have a Lincoln Reagan Days dinner coming up.
Oh,
at a casino down at the River City Casino. So maybe we can go grab a bite to eat over there and hang out with her. Yeah,
let's do that. And I could hug her again. We could just have a deep, long embrace, and God knows where that would go.
My aunt, she said that it's not a real hug until you put your ear up to their heart and you listen to 5 heartbeats while you're hugging, and then you can let go.
Have you ever done that to somebody in an elevator?
Yeah, of course.
I have too, because the thing is, I point out to them that, a lot of people say, what floor, but they don't say that to me, because at that point, I have my ear stuck to their chest, and they're just screaming, wanting to get off the elevator, and,
That's where most deaths happen, is on falling elevators, so I would just hug the person as soon as I get in, and if this is it, I want to go out with someone I love.
Yeah, like Renee.
And then if you make it to the floor, it's a miracle. You're bonded for life. And then if they need to borrow money, you have to give it to them.
Yeah, something like that, I guess.
Joe Maddock is not a crock.
That works.
We'll work on that. Sorry.
Go to Joe, and I'm going to work on this. I'm giving up all my cartoon deadlines for the rest of the day. I'm just going to work on Joe's slogan.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it'll be good. Well, I've had a good time today. You had a good time?
You had a great time this week, especially because old Mark Zuckerberg came out.
Oh, that's right.
Facebook and Meta, and he said, "You remember when we were blocking all that talk, and you guys were paranoid, and COVID was immediately censored."
Right. Yeah,
it was true. We were actually working with the Biden administration, and sorry about that.
Well, we weren't supposed to tell anybody, but now we can. We just had to come clear. We have to be transparent, as they say, like Saran wrap. That's not really transparent. We're transparent like glass, but we did. Speaking of that, though, okay, some of my cartoons were actually, I got 30 days or 90 days just over a cartoon making fun of the whole dang thing. So they took it a little too seriously, because if you take a cartoon too seriously, for all you listening and you know who you are, you don't have much of a life.
It seemed like Donald Trump was hanging out with formerly Twitter CEO Elon Musk, and they were becoming best friends. They did a little chit-chat over on that Spaces function on Twitter, and I think Mark Zuckerberg got a little jealous. Because let's say Trump gets elected, who's going to be his best buddy billionaire? It's going to be Elon Musk, and then Zuckerberg's going to be left out to dry.
Would you go up in a rocket?
I would. I think so, yeah.
I thought about that. You know what? Because I was thinking about the last time I flew a plane. I didn't actually fly it. I was actually a passenger on one, although I probably could fly it because I was pre-pilot for 2 days in college. No, I wasn't. But anyway, I was looking out the window, and I was looking at how far that fall would be, and I could just imagine being even further up there in the sky where everything's turning purple and almost black. And I just think if I were to fall from here, I probably wouldn't make it.
I'll probably check the logo on the outside. And if it says Boeing, then probably not.
No.
Did you see that, Boeing, the doors fly off, their tires fall off and then kill cars in the parking lot.
Right. Yeah.
And then they get fined and they say, yeah, we'll pay you $1 billion and we'll admit that we'll get better. And after this, let's just move on. Right. So everyone agreed, yeah, Boeing sucks. Let's move on, though. And then 2 astronauts are just stuck in space for a year.
Did you hear about that?
Because Boeing can't get them down. The levers don't work, and they're going to send one of them Elon Musk SpaceX rockets up to go and save their lives in a few months.
I didn't know Elon was going to save them. Talk about a flight delay. Wow, you're out because now they were supposed to come home, and now they said, well, I'm sorry, your flight's been delayed till February. I mean, they said February. Can you imagine? Imagine if you and I were stuck in this room, okay, which we are kind of because I think they lock us in here. And all of a sudden we said, okay, we're all done with the show, Jeff. I'm going home now. And they said, nope, you boys are staying in there till February.
It was a Boeing door, and we're really sorry, but it just will not work.
No, you're stuck with Todd till February. What would you do? You'd probably claw my eyes out and yours.
Well, it seems like we have the thermostat control, actually. We turn it off for the entire building when we record because it's a little loud. So that we could do something to mess with them. Like, we could be comfortable in here, and they would be freezing out there. And I don't know if it's a prank, whether we can get out. They probably just put, like, a desk or a chair or something in front of the door. So we would torture them. We'd crank this baby down to, 10 degrees, freeze them all out until they let us out. But I don't know who would eat whom first.
Well, it's like that story, you're eating too fast, you know that story, don't you?
I forget the punchline.
Oh, the two guys, they crash into the mountain and they're, they don't have anything to eat. And they said, well, I guess we're going to have to eat Bob over there because, he's dead. He goes, I don't want to be a cannibal. I don't want to eat Bob. They say, hey, if we don't, we're going to starve to death. They say, okay, so it's me. You're Joey, I'm Todd. So we start eating Bob, okay? And you start, down at Bob's feet, and I start up at his head, and we're eating, and then you say, hey, Todd, how you doing? And I say, oh, Joey, I'm having a ball. And you say, hey, you're eating too fast. That was the punchline.
It tastes like crap. I'm having a ball. They could be swapped out.
One final story.
What food could they slide under the door to us? I know Quentin from Larry Connor's show makes bacon every morning in the pizza oven.
A pizza oven.
The thing is, a toaster some bacon underneath.
Quentin, I went in there the other day, okay, to get my coffee, even though it's 112 degrees outside, because I always get my job. I don't know why. It's just kind of like a habitual type thing. And he's in there with raw chicken tenders, and I'm like, what are you doing? Is this I've
seen
sushi?
Biscuit dough in there also. He's making Egg McMuffins and stuff.
He can make anything with a toaster oven. I mean, that is talk about somebody you want to be stranded with. Quentin, here at the station.
I wonder if he was a Boy Scout like we were and got kicked out.
I got kicked out.
He probably made it all the way through.
No, I did not make it all the way through because I told you I was kicked out. I didn't even make it to Weeblow because of that whole issue at the Scout Skills Show when I threw my handmade shoe shiner that was a block of wood with a piece of carpet stapled to it at Rory, who didn't catch it, and apparently that didn't go over too well at Union Station before it was this station, before I was even here.
Well, you've been redeemed. We took a photo for this show wearing my old Scout uniforms, and you made it to Boy Scout.
Yeah, I know.
You were a Cub, and you got kicked out as Cub.
I know.
I knighted you with my Boy Scout jersey uniform, and you look beautiful in it, and they never should have kicked you out in the first place.
No, they shouldn't.
So be on the lookout for that photo, friends.
I wanted to wear it. I told you I wanted to wear it. You made me give it back. I said, I'm going to wear this Boy Scout shirt the rest of the day because I think the chicks find it hot.
Yeah, all my patches on there. I earned them, not you.
Doesn't matter.
Stolen valor.
Yeah, Stolen Valor. Oh, yeah, just like Tim, Tampon Tim, as they call him? What a crazy name that is. Hi, who are you? I'm Tampon Tim. I wouldn't want a name like that.
I like the alliteration. Tampon Todd.
Tampon Todd. No, I don't think that works quite.
Well, I did have a great day.
I did have a great day. I had a wonderful day. Mitch has been great. He hasn't done absolutely nothing because he's a socialist now. Admiral Andy didn't show up because we didn't invite him. But, hey, you and I have been here, and it's been great to have the guys that have been on the show. And I'm glad that everybody who is listening actually listened. How'd that sound? Good? Okay. I'm going to take us home now. Well, I'm Todd Schowalter, and remember, like I always say, if you don't have a right mind, you don't have a mind at all. This is The Right Mind Show. I'm Todd Schowalter along with my good buddy Joey V. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter. To find out about all things Todd, go to StudioTodd.com. We will see you next Saturday night at 5 p.m. right here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, and always streaming online at NewsTalkSTL.com.